Among other leading Democrats who had been long leery that a suspension of the federal gas tax, which stood at 18 cents a gallon for decades, would translate into lower prices at the pump. Representative Neal stated, "We've got to figure it out again. Who gets the money? And all of a sudden, it's a tiny savings for the consumer and big savings for the oil companies. It doesn't accomplish the goal that we want to see. What the administration idea is, and then we'll figure out how to react from there." In promoting a gas tax holiday, Biden said it would help struggling families through their bustling summer travel season. He's not only urged Congress to suspend the federal tax, but also called on states to suspend their own fuel taxes, which averages at 26 cents a gallon. The House Majority, Steny Hoyer, is another Democrat skeptical that a gas tax holiday would be effective, largely out of concern that the savings will be absorbed by retailers and wholesalers, but not passed on to consumers. Hoyer reiterated these concerns, though he's not ruling out the support Biden's proposal before taking a closer look at it. 6 ongoing online petitions called for Congress and President Biden to deliver recurring stimulus checks of $2,000 until the crisis ends and have now collectively passed 3 million signatures. The latest Change.org petition for monthly direct payments was created by Denver restaurant owner Bonin. It asked for the U.S. Representatives and the Senate to pass legislation that is going to provide a $2,000 payment for adults and $1,000 for children immediately, and continuing regular checks for the duration of the crisis. A second smaller petition calls for Biden and congressional lawmakers to join Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren and other politicians who have recently supported recurring stimulus checks. A group of Democrats have sent a letter to Biden asking his administration to deliver recurring stimulus checks, everybody. Folks, what do you think about President Biden and the fourth stimulus check? Can he get the job done or not? Chuck Schumer has made a big announcement on the new financial aid. Many states and cities are putting funds towards programs that would guarantee Americans with a stimulus check every month. The Social Security COLA for 2023 could be the biggest in decades. However, that increase in monthly checks may not be enough. The Senior Citizens League, an advocacy group, sent a letter to members of both the House of Representatives and the Senate recently. The group is ramping up its calls for new $1,400 stimulus checks to be sent at once to Social Security beneficiaries. The letter was signed by Rick Delaney, chairman of the Senior Citizens League, and he said that we believe that a special stimulus for Social Security recipients can help defray the higher costs that people could face if the next year's COLA bumps them into a higher tax bracket, causing higher tax rates on their income and surcharges to their Medicare Part B premiums. Next year's Social Security COLA is projected to be at least 8%, driven by rising consumer prices. Yet that more generous increase may not be sufficient to help recipients, some of whom have had to cut back on their spending on food or seek aid from food pantries or SNAP benefits. The Senior Citizens League is advocating for changes to the method by which the annual COLA is calculated. The SSA currently uses the Consumer Price Index for urban wage earners and clerical workers to determine whose changes. Now it's also known as the CPIW, and it tracks spending by those who earn an hourly wage or work in clerical jobs. The Senior Citizens League is also calling for legislation to ensure that Social Security could continue to pay benefits for the next 75 years. The Social Security Trustees' annual report recently showed that the combined trust funds used to pay retirement and disability benefits will be depleted in 2034.
For your effort, and for the IRS's effort, and for the employees that work for you, the heroic effort that they put in place to build a system to demonstrate that we do not have to accept these rates of childhood poverty as a permanent feature of our economy or a permanent feature of our democracy. And that was thanks to the work that your folks did. So I'd love to hear your reflections as an economist and a policymaker on the effects of the expanded monthly child tax credit on children and families, and what is your general reaction to all of this?
Senator, you've spoken eloquently about the benefits of the child tax credit. I completely agree with your comments. It cut childhood poverty dramatically. It enabled families to get a little bit of breathing room and to help their kids afford nutritious food and clothing and back-to-school supplies, and it really played a critical role. I think you know that the president has repeatedly said that he strongly supports extension. We would love to see Congress enact that. It's made a huge difference to inequality. It was a very important initiative. I feel very proud. I appreciate your comments. I feel very proud of the work that Treasury and particularly the IRS was able to do to get this money out and to do everything we possibly could to ensure that non-filers, all the many households who weren't required to file tax returns, to make sure that they receive the credit as well. I would love to see, and we've been talking about investments in the IRS. One thing that investments in the IRS would do is make sure the IRS has the modern tools it needs when we have tax credits like that to make sure they go to the families that deserve it, whether they file taxes or not.
I thank my colleague. The Secretary has got a hard stop of 12:45. I think we're in good shape to achieve that. Next in line will be Senator Warren, and I'm going to run and vote and come back, and if Senator Hassan could chair in my absence, that would be great, and I think we'll all be able to get the second vote eventually as well. Senator Warren, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr.
Madam Speaker, I yield myself such time as I may consume.
The gentlewoman is recognized.
Thank you. Madam Speaker, I'm pleased to support this bipartisan legislation that will help ensure students receive healthy school meals. Students need access to nutritious meals so that they can be their best, both in and out of the classroom. Today's bipartisan legislation does just that. During pandemic lockdowns, school food programs were critical to those in need. These programs play an important role in non-pandemic times too. It is important that we ensure this program is sustainable for schools, and that means responsible oversight and a return to regular order. We want to make sure that students who rely on school meals have access to them and that schools can continue to supply them, even in the face of skyrocketing record high inflation. As our constituents know, the price of just about everything has increased. The average family is spending $450 more per month. Eggs are up 32%, milk is up 16%, and bacon is up 15%. Our school meals programs are no exception to these rising costs. This measure will help schools cope with rising food prices by temporarily providing supplemental reimbursements as these programs transition back to normal